Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Bad Lit Friends, the writing podcast that still barely knows what it's doing. I'm your host, Kirk Rafferty, and this is my co-host.
Hi, I'm Meagan Thompson-Mann. And this week, we are considering our past Hot Gos segments. We have done 30 episodes, Kirk, so far.
This is crazy. Yeah.
Yes, 33-0. My age. Not really.
Oh, yes,
but
absolutely.
yes.
And my IQ.
Don't be cruel. It's at least 45.
Okay.
Okay.
I appreciate that. You've always believed in me.
We've covered a whole bunch of different topics. Some of them have stayed with us a little bit longer than others. Some of them continue to, unfortunately, be very topical. So, in lieu of anything more interesting, we thought, hell, why not?
Yeah.
But first, Kirk, how's your writing going?
My writing is going fantastically. I just continue to chug away. I had kind of I actually had to work this weekend, so I didn't get a lot of writing done this weekend. But I've been steadily cranking out the words, and I'm loving where this book is going. And I feel like I'm going to finish it by, let's call it mid-April. Yeah, so we'll see.
Excellent.
I mean, every time I make these proclamations, it doesn't tend to work out, but maybe it will this time.
Feeling
about you?
there. Feeling you, because I had said I thought I'd be done by the end of February, and I think mid-April is pretty realistic for me. Maybe not even realistic. My new goal is going to be that I have to go back to Connecticut in the middle of May for my, I'm not going to say what number of years, high school reunion.
Mhm.
And
Like 7 or 8, yeah.
Yeah, it's my 7th high school reunion. And actually, it's probably the 7th one that we've had. So I'm going to say I'm going to have it done before I go. Definitely. I will have a first draft. I am getting very close. I just banged out over 2,000 words over the weekend, which for me, I am a slow writer, is quite good. And I have about 3.5 chapters left to go. I am on target, and it's getting dark, twisted, weird, unhappy, which makes me very, very, very happy.
Awesome, I love it. I love it.
Yeah. And you saw that little snippet I put up today on.
I did?
That is from a recent chapter. Yes.
Yeah.
So that was a little self-indulgent, but I happen to like it. So
I
but
did.
yeah.
I thoroughly liked it. That was great.
Thank you. So yes, 30 episodes, friends.
So we were talking before the show, that I did realize this was one of our early Hot Gossips, but I did not realize I didn't remember that it was our very first one.
It was.
And as you pointed out, we were kind of on the forefront of this. Like, I think that we hit it before a lot of the big podcasters and big YouTubers actually caught onto it. And, the only reason that nobody noticed is because we were on episode 1 and we had no listeners.
Except for my mom, friend of the show.
Friend of the show. First friend of the show. Yes.
Yes. Thank you, Mom. No, it was threads coming through. Bringing all the worst stuff dependably. I just happened to be, we were talking when we were planning out the first episode, and I said, I think we should do like a Hot Goss segment for the first one and just see how it goes. And I had no idea. I was not aware of any of these bookish circles at all on threads or Bookstagram or anything. I vaguely knew about Book Talk and stuff. I now know way too much about all this stuff because of this podcast. But
same, yeah.
Yeah, I know it's so bad. But yeah.
Our innocence has been corrupted.
A weekend morning, I was kind of flicking through things, and somebody said, does anybody know about the age of Scorpius and the current issues surrounding an author who seems to be selling a book only on hype? And I thought, this looks interesting. So this is how I got sucked into Book Talk, was because of the Age of Scorpius, the World of Guardian, and everybody's favorite tax exile, possibly, Milo Winter.
Allegedly.
So, in a nutshell, Milo Winter is a very young author who was, I believe, based in Colorado. So Milo Winter's plan was to take this idea that he had been working with since he was, I think he said, since he was about 8 or
Yeah,
12.
yeah. Very long time.
Very
I
long
mean,
time.
yeah.
Yeah. It's a fantasy, romantasy world called the World of Guardian, and he'd written the first book in this series, The Age of Scorpius, and he had done all of these beautiful, gorgeous illustrations. He didn't do them himself. He was working with artists. He had a lot of TikToks up. He did a lot of teasers. He had a TikTok shop up, a pre-sales of the first book, electronic versions, and also special hardcovers. And so people were waiting, and nobody got to see any of the text. All they saw were images, but the images were, and I agree, these images are so beautiful.
Mhm, mhm.
The artists he was working with are fantastic. So, book gets released. It was not good.
It's not great, yeah.
It was not good. You read some of it. What was your feeling about it?
Yeah, and I can't remember where I saw I think somebody else was reviewing it or something, and then so I just saw, like, the first I wanna say I saw the first maybe couple pages or maybe the entire chapter, I don't remember. It wasn't great because it needed editing
Mhm.
really badly.
Mhm.
And this is you know what? This is a problem with my writing too. After I've finished my first draft and I go back and I look at it, yeah, my first chapter is, I see the potential there, but it's not great. And so this first chapter suffered from just no editing. And yet Milo had published it.
And he insisted that he had had multiple editors working on
Mhm.
this,
Mhm.
including the editor from The Hunger Games, like, or an editor who had worked on at least one book in the Hunger Games series.
Yeah. And I'm not gonna call Milo a liar, but that chapter was not edited. So
Mhm.
if Milo really did pay an editor, Milo got ripped off because there was no editing done to those first pages.
Yeah, it was. And there were a lot of, from what I can recall, there were issues with repetition of words very close to each other. Not just like I mean, the's going to be everywhere, but some words just kind of leap out at you. So
Well, it was
you,
also very meandering. It
it
was
was
just a
meandering.
very flat chapter.
It didn't start, not that every book needs to start with a bang, but something needs to be happening. I couldn't figure out where I was in this space. There was, at the same time, and this is quite a trick, there was too much detail and not enough detail.
Mhm.
So that I was, from what I can remember, there's this detailed description of a stone arch or a wall, and I had no idea where it was, why it was there, why this was near this stone arch. I had no clue. Um, so I happened to find out about this the very weekend that this dropped, and people were saying, "This doesn't look right," but maybe something's wrong. Some people were giving the benefit of the doubt, but other people started piping up. "What have you been doing? Did all of you suckers buy a book on vibes alone?"
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's
And I
kind
think
of what
that
had
was
happened.
our conclusion, or at least it was
Mhm,
my conclusion
I
that,
agree.
okay, yes, Milo put out a not very good book. However, I also put onus on the readers, the buyers.
Mhm.
Like, why on earth would you buy a book sight unseen, no words at all from an author whose work you have never seen? Like if Stephen King has a book coming out 6 months from now, I will put it on pre-order
Mhm.
sight unseen, right? Because
Yeah, yeah.
Stephen King has a track record.
Yeah, I buy all of Emily Henry's books, as
Yeah,
pre-orders.
I
I
mean,
think she's
yeah,
great.
yeah, exactly. I mean, same thing for, like, Kate Quinn for me, right? So whoever it is, if they've got a track record, that's one thing. Milo Winter was shipping this thing on vibes alone, and so, yeah, I think my conclusion at least was that, okay, shame on Milo Winter, but kinda shame on you too
Yeah,
for
yeah,
doing
and
that.
but the problem that he created for himself was, instead
Well,
of,
it got worse, didn't it?
it got worse fast, really fast. I still, because I am kind of a nice person most of the time, I do think that he just felt really overwhelmed. He's so young. I think he was 22 when this all started. And it was what was we didn't know at the time was that he was in the process of essentially coming out as a trans person. And
Mhm.
nobody had any clue about that. And that was adding to his stress. And he took no responsibility at first. Then he yanked the book off of the website, off of Amazon, so that the ebooks were no longer available, but there were still like hardcovers. And he said, "You know what? I've got an idea. I am going to do full transparency. I am going to edit this book, as everyone says I should have done in the first place. And I'm going to do it online. I'm going to start a Patreon, and my subscribers can follow my editing journey.
Yeah.
But I've got a team. I'm assembling even more artists. I have musicians I'm working with. I have people who are my assistants." And it was like, "What are you doing? You have a book. You're a writer. This is a, in many ways, often a very solitary profession or
Now we
pursuit."
should mention by this time, Milo had taken in a lot of money, over $100,000, those initial orders. And again, we can't say this with any kind of authority, but it seemed like Milo had taken that money and then used it to start a much larger business operation than, a single author who is maybe farming out artwork to some freelancers, right?
Yeah.
So it turned into this big thing, like artists, editors, all kinds of people, and,
Yeah.
really turned into a
Volunteers.
thing. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, and all people wanted was just a nicely edited book. That's all people were asking for.
Can you imagine? I mean, I often think about this. I mean, I'm so petty. I often think about what would it be like to like sell my book 1 or book 2 on Vibe, especially book 2, which is has younger, sexier character. No middle-aged sag in this one.
Mhm.
To sell it on Vibes alone. And then like how many people could I get to buy this? Be like, "Don't you want to see sexy English majors getting it on, being really morally compromised and talking about Keats?" You know you want to. I know that there are people who do want to, and that's great. That means I will have a market. But I don't think that I have sufficient lack of shame to do this. I don't even know if at 22 I would have had that little shame.
And to give Milo the benefit of the doubt, I don't know that that's, how it started out, right? I
No.
think that
Yeah.
my guess is that he, tasted a little bit too much of his own product
Mhm.
and just had more money than sense and decided that, they were gonna take this money and just turn it into this massive in fact, I think that Milo even put out a post that said something very similar to, "I
Mhm.
just got in over my head," right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
which and we're leading up to that, I know, but
Yeah, yeah. It's so
there was a lot of good intentions, but not a lot
yeah.
of smart intentions.
Yeah, and again, I think a lot of this has to do with age, and which makes me wonder, like, where are the adults in the room? From what I can tell, he had a decent relationship with his parents, but also there are other adults around. There the editor, some of these I'm gonna guess that some of these artists are older, but there were adults around to say, "You know what? I love what you're thinking, kid, but let's build this first." And I'm not blaming the adults. I am still keeping a lot of the blame on Milo and on the readers, but at one point, the readers stopped being the problem.
Mhm, mhm,
When Milo stopped publishing edits on his Substack that he was taking in a subscription fee for, and saying, "This is what I'm doing, these are the edits that I'm making," showing them. A lot of it was, like, artwork that was being shown, but also some of the edits, and then he stopped making posts, it was just his assistant who was making
mhm,
posts,
mhm,
and then at some point very recently, the assistant said, "You know what, we're just gonna cancel it. We're gonna stop doing any updates for a little while." And Milo said, "I've got some," Milo had a post, this big post saying, "Look, this is what's going on in my life. I'm trans. I've left America, I had kind of a mental breakdown. I'm living in Finland for the moment. I'm working on something else. Now, I will say this for the bookish community. Milo's being trans was not an issue. That was not
Right.
the issue here. It
Right.
was, you still got my money.
Mhm.
Why are you in Finland? And what are you
And in
writing?
that announcement, they worded it in a way, "If you would like a refund, then, like, go fill out this form or something." I'm like, "What do you mean, if you want a refund? You should be refunding. You didn't deliver, you should be
Yeah,
refunding."
yeah, yeah. So, fast forward a little bit, tiny bit, Milo puts out a new book. It is a book of poetry. It is
Mhm.
not the world of Guardian. It is not even set in the world of Guardian. It is a slim volume that had a lot of beautiful illustrations and very little content, apparently. I looked at the poems. They're not bad. This is, I think, kind of like one of the tragedies here. And there are several. Milo can write. Milo needs an editor, but Milo can
Sure.
write.
And everybody needs an editor, by the way, so that's not even a
Everybody,
that is
yeah.
not a dig at Milo, that, like,
No,
everybody needs an editor.
everyone needs an editor. So, but no refunds were being issued. And fast forward to a couple of weeks ago, and Milo saying, I'm back in the States for the moment. I don't feel safe here, which is very understandable. So, trying to figure out where to go next. And refunds are available upon request because the world of Guardian is dead. And what have we learned?
Honestly, I'm not sure that Milo has learned much.
I don't think
Uh,
so.
uh, I'm and I say this, again, if you have a listen back to our first episode, I tried to be very forgiving, to
Mhm.
Milo.
Mhm.
I'm not in a forgiving mood at this point. I'm really pretty pissed off with the way that Milo has treated his customers, treated the book community,
Mhm.
and a lot of it is kind of the posts that have been made, on updating is just an absolute insult to anybody's intelligence. So rather than just coming out, and being honest, there's been a lot of hedging, there's been a lot of, I think, misinformation. I could be wrong, but yeah, I'm not in too much of a forgiving mood for Milo Winter at this.
Nor am I. But when you and I started talking about this last week, I thought, raised some very good points about what this whole adventure says about how do you sell a book on vibes? Not just how do you buy a book on vibe. Now, of course, when we buy books, we're taking great leaps of faith.
Mhm.
We don't know often what is exactly going to happen in them. So yes, to some extent, we are frequently buying books on vibes. But we have a physical object in our hands in the bookstore. We can look at the blurb on the back. We can thumb through it. We can read reviews. We can look at a sample online from an ebook,
Mhm.
all sorts of things. That's different from, I don't know anything about this book at all except for it's pretty. And this person has done some genuinely kick-ass TikToks. They are great. He's fantastic at marketing. How are Book Talk and Bookstagram recommendations helping and hurting readers? And maybe this is a topic for an entire episode.
Oh, I think it is, yeah.
Yeah, think this is a big one because this is kind of like a warning from where things can go wrong. Why is it that substance isn't important if the vibes are right? And what if the vibes are right, but the content is shit like we had here?
Yeah.
Then it's so much hassle and so much bad blood. What's going on? And I'm saying this, like I feel like as I am, a middle-aged lady going, "What's wrong with kids today?" I would never do that, and I will say that I did watch, about a half an hour of a very old episode of 120 Minutes with Shane last night, and we're like, "Oh, this feels just like 1989." I'm like, "Oh, that's wrong." Like, I need to be I need to be in the here and now. But I I don't get it. I would love to find some Gen Z person to to talk to about this because to me, Does not compute. I can say, wow, that's really pretty. I get this concept of aesthetic and selling things on an aesthetic. I bought into that crap when I was younger, but not like book buying. So this. Put a pin in this one. I think I want to come back and talk about this one.
Well, yeah, I'll tuck your ear off on how I think that, especially book talk has an unnecessarily large influence on the bookish community, and I'm of 2 minds of that, right? So, on the one hand, I think that it is an outsized influence. On the other hand, if you're a publisher, what are you to do? These are the people that are buying your books. So if Book Talk says, we want romance between hockey players, and
It
I'm not
doesn't.
slamming hockey romances at all. I'm just saying they're going to start publishing more hockey romances, right? Because
Yeah, absolutely.
so I don't know what the answer is, but I
I s-
do know, but I
Still
do,
think that heated rivalry is going to save the world, Kirk. So
I,
I'm
I
pro hockey romance.
yes,
I am a former ice hockey player too.
I have to with I have to come up with a different example. I keep going to hockey romances, and I don't know why, because I really don't have anything against hockey romances. It's just the first thing that pops into my mind. So I'm gonna think on this. I'm gonna meditate on this, and I'm
Okay,
gonna come
okay,
up with better examples
okay. Good,
of
good.
books that are
Still, I
ridiculous.
still have. I've never talked about it, I think, but book 9 is my flag football romance that I came up with.
Yeah,
So yeah, I'd forgotten about that one and found the notes on it recently. I'm like, oh, I outlined it
maybe
into. I can't write romance, but I outlined one.
maybe my bad book example will be something around this weird Pulp Fiction thing that we were talking about
Oh,
today. But
oh, yeah. That's also. Let's stick a pin in that one.
yes.
As well. I would love to talk about uh the literature of the extreme. I think would be an interesting topic.
Oh, yeah. Literature of
So
the extreme. Yeah, yeah.
let's
Okay,
go
that's our next
deep.
episode, Meagan. That's just
Fuck that. No, I'm
okay. I think
busy.
we already have yeah, we have
No,
one
we already
already
have.
lined up, but okay, the
Yeah.
next one after that.
Okay. This one was from episode 4, so also very early on.
Okay.
This was about the Sinners and Stardust conference for dark romance that took place last year. That was in New Orleans.
Mhm.
And let's do the good stuff first. Besides the bad stuff we're going to get to, which is super bad, most people had an excellent experience there. This is a very well run conference, excellent responsive organizers. And we'll get into that a little bit more in a second. The problem was that there was, as at any conference, when there are people who do not want to take accountability for their drinking or other substance use and or just feel like, hey, I'm not at home, I'm in a weird hotel. Um,
Mhm.
Woohoo! Anything goes. And I am a dark romance reader and I like to think about dark, sexy things. So maybe other people want to do dark, sexy things with me. Dark, sexy things, I will say, when consent is involved, are good things. Very good things.
They are dark and sexy.
They are
Yes.
dark and sexy, but consent is the operative word there. There was and we'll put in a content warning here. There was sexual assault of a male model, I guess he was, a musician and a performer with women just sticking their hands down his underwear. I have been intoxicated on more than one occasion in my life. I can honestly say that has never occurred to me.
To just shove your hands down
Absolutely
the
not.
the sexy dude's pants, like, yeah,
Maybe it's maybe
at the
it's
conference.
Maybe
Yeah.
it's I've never been no, it's not just because I've never been around sexy dudes at a conference. It is because I went to a lot of investment conferences in an earlier life, not a lot of sexy guys there. So,
Okay.
yeah, but even then, not something that would occur to me. Not only that, but there were other things going on. There were people performing sex acts on dildos out in, like, the atrium or, like, kind of communal areas where
Mhm.
people who did not wanna see this had to see it as they walked by.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, nobody consented to that.
Nobody
Like,
consented to it at all.
Yeah,
Why?
no kink shaming here, but just practice your kink somewhere else.
And I will say this from what I know of kinksters, it's hard to avoid them in Los Angeles, they're everywhere, is that is that consent is so important to them.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and it's all negotiated, and everybody needs to be enthusiastic about it, and there needs to be like, you need to be able to stop. If you don't do that, you're not only possibly committing sexually assault, or if you're just doing something on a dildo, you are an exhibitionist. You know,
Mhm.
you're the same as that guy that I once saw standing on a tube platform in Earl's Court, literally with a trench coat, as we pulled into the station, opens up the trench coat and shows everybody with a great big smile on his face. That's what you are if you are
Yeah.
having a go at the on a
I
dildo
mean
in
I
the
mean, you're
hall.
yeah, you're just being trash is what you're being.
Yeah.
You're
Don't
not being sexy, you're not being funny, you're not being edgy, you're just being trashy.
it's so fucking tacky. Don't do it. I don't have to tell our audience is perfect. They don't
Yes, we
need
have a
me to
very
tell them.
classy audience.
Extremely.
Yeah, we card at the door, so
That's right. But I will say this. Sinners in Stardust management took this extremely seriously. And immediately they made a whole series of posts. I'm going to put there everything that we are doing today. There are going to be so many goddamn links in the show notes. But they did a whole series of Instagram posts taking responsibility, saying
mhm,
what went wrong very
mhm.
clearly, what they did to remedy it then, what they're doing to remedy it going forward, and making very clear their code of conduct, which is available on the website for their next event, which is in Boston in August 14th to 16th. It looks super cool. And you can just go to their Google Docs that they have linked in there. It's so easy to find out. They did this right. It is so many times we see these things where things go wrong and it's just, passing the buck. They took responsibility. Fucking fantastic. It is so
Yep,
great to see that.
yep.
But why are so many other events going wrong? And not in this sexual assault way, but in the mismanagement way. We every week we're hearing about some event for writers or for readers that people don't show up, they've booked the wrong hotel, there's not enough room, there's not enough. All of the authors show up, but there's been no publicity, so there's no readers coming, or
Mhm.
there's like hundreds of readers and there's very few authors because they've totally blown this. There was one recently.
Accessibility issues?
Accessibility, yeah, that was about to say, yeah. There was
Yeah.
that one recently with the serious accessibility issues, basically saying, well, if you're here and you're not able, if you're not, we're not, we know we're not ADA compliant. Like, this is your friendly lawyer here. I'm going to tell you, this is only as a friend. I'm not your lawyer. Don't say that. That's an admission. That's an admission against interest. Don't do that. Look it up in the federal rules of evidence or the rules of evidence of your local state. Don't do that. So, but why? Why do you think that these conferences are so prone to these disasters? Do you know?
Are you asking me?
Yeah, I'm
I
asking
have an
you because
answer for that. Yeah, yeah.
oh, good, good.
No, it's money. The conference organizers that are doing this kind of thing are interested in one thing, and they're interested in collecting the money and not spending the money. And so anytime they need to provide something additional like food and water and basic access to their event, they don't want to do it. They want to put that money in their pocket. So it all comes back to capitalism, Megan.
Not again. God damn it. Urgh.
Because it does seem to be the same companies doing this shit.
But also, there have also been a lot of conferences where the promoter has found it's been found out that the promoter is linked to possibly someone or a company that is problematic,
Mhm,
and they refuse to cut ties, but sometimes they do. But it has a cascading effect. If these organizers don't cut ties with these problematic people and organizations early on, there's wave after wave of cancellation of authors who are going to take part. And once that starts happening, attendees start canceling too. And when I think about it, and tell me if I'm wrong, I could be totally wrong here. I feel like there is a link here between Milo Winter and these conferences that people's enthusiasm gets ahead of their ability to actually execute what they plan. That they want to do this thing so badly
Sure.
that even when they're not skilled enough to do it, that they just go ahead anyway. This kind of Silicon Valley, like, break things
Yeah,
and
because
fix it
how
later.
hard can it be to organize a conference, right? You just need a space and then, throw
Yeah.
throw it out on the internet. "Hey, come to our space and be book people."
That's
Yeah.
right. Come on down to the VFW, be book people. We got some potato salad.
Yeah, and that's really what that's what a lot of what it is. I mean, I say that, yes, it is capitalism. Yes, people don't wanna spend money, but yes, there's absolutely an aspect of it.
Yeah, I don't mind small amateur events if they're like, "We're just people. We're just doing something. Like, come on
Yeah.
down. We got some Pringles. We've got a couple of local authors. They're gonna be selling their books. Cool. Maybe you don't need a smoke machine." I feel like when you start getting into smoke machines and laser lights, like, maybe you wanna do a little bit of due diligence about who's going to be your keynote speaker, that kind of thing. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I just have to point out this other one. The poor authors recently, this happened on more than one occasion, unbelievably, who got negative reviews on Goodreads printed out and then presented to them at conferences, shoved in their faces. "Hey, I printed these out. Will you sign them?" What? "Will you sign these bad reviews of your book for me?"
I have not heard. You know what? I would so I get that that would be a horrific, traumatic experience. I totally get
I
that.
will find those links and I will put them in the show notes.
I
It's great.
will if somebody did that to me, I think I mean, I would laugh my ass off. I think that to me, that would be funny. However, it's a bad idea to do in general, right? Because authors are very sensitive about these things. Don't do that.
God.
Oh my god, so you've just introduced a brand new Hot Gos to me. I did not I hadn't heard of that. That is
Maybe we could do it for
both
Hot Goss next week on this one.
yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
I won't I'll no spoilers. But
That
yeah,
is both
it's happened
horrifying and just
multiple
funny
times.
as hell to me.
Multiple times. So,
What people what is wrong with you people?
I don't know.
Not our listeners. I'm not
Our
talking to
listeners
our
are
listeners.
perfect. Our listeners
Our
are perfect.
listeners are perfect, they're
Yes, yes, yes.
classy. Yes.
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 Okay.
As noted.
Okay. Next up, episode 17 brought us a discussion of Willow Talks, who is a booktuber who is based in Scotland. She is very funny, very smart. She focuses on horror, sci-fi, fantasy, but she had a little kerfuffle towards the end of last year
Just a
when
little meltdown.
she had a little problem. She went off on romantasy readers, specifically romantasy girlies, as she called them, being not that bright. Now, what I know about romantasy girlies is that they are extremely bright, very funny, and do not like being called dumb.
Yeah. They have claws.
Very sharp, very, very sharp. I mean, they're girlies. They go to the salon. They get them really sharp, right? So there was a lot of pushback online, as you might imagine. And some of it went way too far.
Yes, it did.
I'm not saying that criticism wasn't deserved because it was deserved, I think, in this.
But again, this kind of thing keeps coming up, and I don't know why it keeps coming up, but it
I don't
does.
know. It does. The particularly gross bits of the criticism that she received were based on that Willow is trans, and people were saying, some people, not many, but some were saying, well, here's the problem, Willow. You weren't born a woman, so you don't
Mhm.
understand some of
Mhm.
these things. This is bullshit. Willow was born a woman. Sorry, or female, I just hate that word female, just make bleh. So when it comes to humans, so bleh. But she was born and absolutely grew up to be a woman. So, fuck you, fuck that. But also, Willow, that was a fucking stupid take. So, but she needed to take some time away. And
And she's back now, right?
she's back.
Yeah, yeah.
And what's better is she's refocused on what she originally started doing, which is horror, sci-fi, fantasy. She realized that She was doing some stuff for the clicks, but at least she realized she was doing some stuff for the clicks.
Yeah.
Um,
I like a happy ending.
yes, she had her most recent video that I watched was about Between Two Fires by Christopher Buehlman. Now, I don't read like historical kind of like body horror or like that and nothing. Um, I want to read this book. So I've added it to my cart, and I am definitely gonna say I was sold. Also, she had a lot of hate for the Emerald Fennel, or Fennell Wuthering Heights film. I have not seen this film. I hate it on principle alone. She hated it too. I felt a kindred spirit. Yes. So I love it. Go watch it. She's super snooty. It's wonderful. I love that she's snooty, but on the other hand, sometimes her snooty takes are a little. You're the one who was like, you had some very good comments on her one about the usefulness of reader reviews. You said to me that you thought she was getting a little high on her own supply.
Yeah. I yeah, if you are a professional reviewer and you start criticizing non-professional reviewers, automatically, whether you have good takes on it or not, automatically you're punching down, right?
Yeah,
So,
no bueno.
yeah, it would be the same as us professional podcasters,
Yes. Yes.
punching down on, I don't know, somebody else with a
Somebody who was
podcast.
just doing their first episode of a podcast
Yeah,
and
yeah.
talking about Milo Winter.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, no, no, we are professionals.
We're professionals. We would
No,
never attack the little guy.
never, never. And finally, the enigma that is Jordan Lee. So, Jordan Lee tweeted that she was having a really hard time finding an agent. And she gave a whole list of reasons why maybe she was having a hard time finding an agent. She'd written a young adult novel. It was a debut novel that was the first in a trilogy. Her query, she said, by her own admission, might be weak. Um, but also it's because she's a straight cis white female who writes straight cis females.
Mhm.
Okay. And well, Twitter is terrible, but there were still at that point. This was back in August of last year. People who were on there who were pushing back and saying, that doesn't sound really good. And you're a nice young person. Maybe you need to check your privilege a little bit. And then she just doubled down and was like, well, these agents were saying that they were, looking for LGBTQ authors, so obviously they wanted authors to identify themselves. And people are like, well, that's actually not it. And
Yeah. Yeah.
well, there were a lot of people who in the beginning were willing to try and teach her, but that kind of faded away as she doubled down, doubled down, doubled down, doubled down, and refused to see that she had done anything wrong. And what that did was, because it's Twitter, there were a lot of terrible people, kind of an understatement,
Yeah.
who jumped to her defense and said, essentially, come sit with us at the cool fascist table, Jordan. We
Yeah.
got a
Yeah.
space for you here. And it was, at the time, you and I expressed concern for a young writer at the very start of her career. She had not published her first novel at all, aligning herself with some of the worst people in the world.
Mhm. Mhm.
And, we hoped that things would turn out well for her. She had published her own Substack. Obviously, that's what you do. Go to Substack, and a very long piece about why she was unapologetic. And she'd do it again. Then, crickets.
Yeah. She just disappeared.
Disappeared. Her Substack got nuked. And here's something interesting I found out. Her Twitter account was suspended for violation of Twitter terms.
And let me tell
How
you,
do you do that?
how do you get your Twitter account suspended um these days with her leanings, right? Yeah. So,
Maybe it was all of her mentions of cis.
yeah.
I don't know.
That is a feat. That's a feat.
If you know, please tell me, because I can't stop thinking about this person. The only traces of Jordan and all of this that remain are, from what I can tell, some Substack posts about what happened.
Mhm.
One is that is particularly overwrought and extremely long that I will put in the show notes for people to explore some of the links. That's all that I'll say. But the other traces are podcasts, so well done us. Episode 5, Jordan Lee, you've been memorialized. Also, episode 31, Jordan Lee.
Yeah. Ooh.
Where are you? I like to think that Jordan sat with herself. Maybe there was the responsible adult that should have been around with Milo and said, Jordan, what are you doing? And she did. She nuked everything because she realized she really messed up. I
Yeah.
really hope
Yeah.
that's what happened
I do too.
because, she made a
Well,
boo-boo.
I mean, and not just nuked everything and because she messed up and then, like crawled under a rock for the rest of her life. I mean, I hope she does to get her shit together,
I do
right?
too.
It would be
I do too. It would be really great. So Jordan, I've still got my fingers crossed. Still hoping for you, girl. It could happen. Just use a different pen name, maybe.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, the pen name is mandatory at this point,
Yeah,
I
and
think.
and
But
don't eat
yeah.
lunch at the fascist table.
Yeah, for sure. For
The
sure.
sandwiches are gross. So, speaking of hot goss, let's do some more hot goss.
Ooh, let's do it.
Speaking of uh worst people in the world.
Man, there's no redemption for this one.
Okay.
But
Okay. Yeah.
yeah,
Um,
go ahead.
well, okay. So there was an author, I'm not going to mention her by name, but she writes clean romantasy, clean Christian
Mhm.
romantasy.
Mhm.
I I have read, and Kirk has read, a little bit of her books. She's perfectly competent.
Yep, she's a good
Yeah,
writer.
she's a good writer. So she decided to dedicate her latest book that's coming out to Charlie Kirk. Well, it's a choice.
It is a UTF choice.
It's
Yeah.
not one I would make. At first, I did not believe this. I told Kirk about it. He asked me if it was a troll. I said no. I said this was real. So this also comes to us from Threads. Thank you again, Threads, for your sterling service. Okay. So Threads did what it can do quite well, which was dogpile, only satisfying when the dogpile is deserved, which it was this time. And people were calling her out for very obvious reasons. Like, okay, nobody here, and I'll make this clear, that pretty much nobody, or at least no comments that I saw, were actually celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk at all. I will make that
Sure. No,
100% clear. This was all about what Charlie Kirk represented in life. People were saying, why would you
absolutely.
do this? Why would you align yourself with this person?
You know, 2 things can be true, right? Like, I
Yes.
don't want to see anybody get shot, get killed, right? I also think that Charlie Kirk was a massive piece of shit.
Yep.
In fact, it's not that I think it, it's just he was demonstrably a massive piece of shit.
Yeah.
And so for you to dedicate your Christian book
Mhm.
to this massive piece of shit
Yeah, it was
is beyond me.
very distasteful, I think. And well, as these things do go often, the author said that no, everybody else had it wrong, and that she had watched so many hours of Charlie Kirk videos, and everyone else is a big meanie, and they've only seen edited segments that terrible liberals have glommed together, and that
Mhm.
there was nothing wrong and everything's out of context. And it's like, you know what? I have seen enough of these things, of these kind of snippets, that he said things that I would never say.
Gay people should be stoned to death. Now tell
Yeah.
me how that's taken out of context, okay?
Yeah.
Most people are scared when they see a black pilot flying a plane. Tell me how that can be taken out of context. I mean, I could go on, right? Just the great replacement theory is a reality. On and on and on. And you're dedicating your book to this. And this, I'm sorry, but this is not a political thing. This is just a basic don't be a human shitbag thing.
Yeah. This is about we were talking the other week about the reading being so important to create empathy.
Mhm.
Where is the empathy here? Why would you dedicate this to somebody who went to campuses to provoke students into saying things that could then be monetized to create more money for his hate? Why would you do this? This is, it doesn't compute. I grew up in New England, in the 70s, 80s, early 90s. And all of the Christians that I knew were pretty much like social justice people. Like I was raised with no religion. Like I all of these people I was around, they were do-gooders. They were feeding the poor. They were
Right.
helping immigrants.
Right.
They were welcoming strangers. That's what I grew up associating Christianity with. And
Yeah,
then
dedicate your book to one of those people.
these are wonderful people.
Yeah.
And I I don't get it. What is wrong with you? And as an author, don't you want to get people into your world? Or are you just like, "You know what? I'm happy. Assholes only."
There's several possibilities here. There's, it could be a gimmick to sell more books, like to, trying to appeal to a very specific audience. It could be that somebody who's just completely drank the Kool-Aid and doesn't actually understand just how awful this person is. That is the most generous take, by the way,
It's
that I
too
can think
generous, I
of.
will tell you, because I have looked at some of her other posts, and it's just like, you know, the problem is
Okay.
too many women don't submit to their husbands.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah.
And Charlie Kirk was a big women submit to your husbands type of guy. I think he said that about Taylor Swift, that she should,
Yeah.
submit to her husband.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, yeah, right,
Good luck with
exactly.
that. Yes. So, I don't know. I like to think that most people are very good people who are capable of making mistakes and are also capable of atonement. I will leave that there.
Yeah, you are more optimistic of humanity than I am.
I know that. It's one of the things I love about you, Kirk.
That I
Uh,
hate that I hate people? Yeah.
yeah, well,
It's one of the things I love about me too.
so much hot goss. Blazing hot goss.
Wow.
So
All the hot
much.
it's oops, all hot goss.
We live for the goss. That makes us part of the problem. That's okay. Because next week you're going to come back and listen to some more hot goss. I think we just said what it was going to be, but that's okay. But until next week, you can find us at Badlet's Friends on all of the very worst and most evil socials, including places where you can find people dedicating their books to Charlie Kirk. So we are Badlet Friends, Bluesky, nice place, easy to block people you don't like. Instagram, Threads, the worst, but the best. I said it. I'm sorry. Also, our YouTube channel. We are getting views now.
Yay.
Thank you. And we are on all major podcast platforms. Leave us some more comments. We love reading the comments. And next week, we are going to have a little bit of a philosophical conversation about what do writers owe their readers?
And when we were talking about doing this episode, we acknowledged that that's a pretty massive topic, and we still have no idea what we're gonna talk about. So it's all just as big a mystery to us
I
as
know.
it is to you.
I know. I will be reading tea leaves obsessively until then. But until next time, we will see you then.
Bye.